morning. Welcome to the PPI Leadership Lounge. I'm Khalid Assad. I'm your host, and I'm glad you can join us for our Black History Month series. My guest today is Dr. Deidre Anderson. Dr. Anderson, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I am well. I'm excited to be here.
Pretty much, Dr. D helps organizations and individuals clarify what's important to them. Her work has tremendously impacted leaders at organizations such as Verizon Wireless, Boeing, ShopRite, George Washington University, Notre Dame, National Institute of Health, John Hopkins, and more. Her desire is to ignite passion in every person and group so that no goal will be unattainable. She holds a PhD in strategic leadership, a master's in education, and she's also a certified professional coach. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to this conversation.
What an honor. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
So what would you say are your core values? What's important to you? What drives you to do the work that you do?
Well, I would say three primary things, Khalid. I think compassion is at the heart of everything that I do. I would add courage and generosity, that ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to have empathy. All that is compassion for me. There is an abundance mindset that I have. You are always willing to help someone out, to lift someone up. And I'm always growing and learning, and I'm sharing what has been learned. So generosity from a number of different perspectives. And then courage, just the willingness to step outside of your comfort zone, to do things that make you uncomfortable, to speak up when it's necessary to speak up, and to have the courage to be quiet when it's a moment when you need to be listening instead of talking. Compassion, courage, and generosity, I think they drive everything that I do.
What would you say, or what would be a pushback to people or leaders who'd say, look, leadership is all about getting things done. It's about the business. People may say, well, those are soft skills. We don't need those. What would your pushback be?
If you invest in your people, if you uplift your people, the profit will follow. I think skills, those hardcore skills like that, those are things I can develop in people. But when your heart is in the right place, I think everything else follows. As leaders, we have to get things done, right? We have to have competence in whatever it is that we do. But when you think about those leaders who had an impact on you, the first thing you think about is not, oh yeah, they got things done. You think more about things like they inspired me, they motivated me, they uplifted me. You think about those kinds of skills. Again, skills that are connected back to their EQ, those skills that some people think of as soft skills. I would say they're all at the heart of leadership. Those are all the skills to me that create leaders that leave legacy, that when they transition out of this world, we remember them and what they did outlives them.
What do you find most rewarding in leading others? What's most rewarding for you?
So I really do believe is that great leaders are inspired when they're able to assist and help people to go beyond where they are, that you've made a difference that's going to last. It's something that has been transformational in nature, that you see someone has actually been able to change. We work on ourselves first, and then there's a ripple effect. Then we're able to assist our families in becoming better. We're able to assist our communities in becoming better. And then the world. If you really want to be a world changer, you start with yourself. So for me, it's seeing that something that I have done has really made a lasting impact on someone and then inspired them to be more of those things I talked about, to be more compassionate, to be more courageous, who's more generous. Now there's a ripple effect. I've not just impacted them, but now they're going to impact others who are going to impact others. So that's what we should be about, right? That ripple effect, that butterfly effect, that one small change can make a difference that ripples outward so long, so far. That's when I know that I'm making a difference, when I see it in someone else and then I see them actually living out the vision and purpose that is a part of their life leadership.
I know you work with leaders in training and coaching capacity. What you just talked about was, I call it selfless leadership. How do you get people to understand it? How do you get people there as you're coaching them?
First of all, you have to be authentic in your own leadership, being authentic as a coach, being authentic as a mentor, being authentic as a trainer, that you help to create this safe space where people can put down their insecurities, because that's just insecurity screaming. When we feel that we can only lead from a place of title, nobody will follow us. All those things are things that feed into our sense of insecurity. So I think one of the things that I've learned over the years to do well is to be vulnerable myself. And then that helps to create a safe space where other people feel like they can kind of put down that need to pretend like they're flawless. When we're vulnerable, when we're authentic, there is something about us that draws people to us. First and foremost, you create that authentic safe space. It's got to be a real safe space where people know that they're not judged, where people know that you really are there to help them and serve them. When we can have real discussions, like real honest discussions, then you can help people to develop in real time. That's the magic of coaching. It's asking those questions that make people scratch their heads, and the answers will lead them to be the best versions of themselves. That's what I believe.
What do you find most challenging as a leader? Or if you can you share a challenge with us that you faced as a leader? And then how did you overcome it?
Every time you get elevated to a different space, a new space, every time you stretch past your comfort zone, you're uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable because you have not been in that space before. You've not mastered that skill set. And every new space has a new culture, it has new requirements. What it does is it fuels those insecurities that you have. You can kind of get that sense that you're an imposter. Like, what am I doing here? Every time that you're bumped up and elevated, there's an opportunity to either be authentic and figure out, where your strengths lie and lean into those, or to kind of adopt that false bravado that I talked about before. I'm not a big believer in that fake it till you make it. I know some people say that's what you need to do, because I think when you start to lean into that, it causes you to really be a little inauthentic. It causes you to try and cover your weaknesses. It causes you to try and jockey for position in a way, to me, that's fleeting. A lot of times when you're invited there, the first thing you need to do is listen. First thing you need to do is to make yourself vulnerable to someone and say, hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. Can you help me navigate? And it may not be that blunt, but really that's important. So often we feel like we can't trust anyone. And when you come into a space from that perspective and with that chip on your shoulder, you show up differently. I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I'm here. And I had to really say to myself, you know what? I'm here because I bring something unique. But when you're different and you look around the room, you can get into this thing where you try to fit in, and you try to fit in so much that you lose the authentic reason that you were invited in the first place. I'm not saying you don't respect that, honor what has come before you, but at the same time, you're there for a reason and you're different for a reason. And remember that when you come into a space and you're different, sometimes you will be rejected. Sometimes people will look at you like, what in the world, who in the world, and why? That's why you got to know who you are, and you got to understand your why. If you don't embrace you, and if you don't love you, and if you don't believe, you're going to be pushed into that position where you start to shrink back. And we all know that that's not what.
Talk to me about your work and how do you see the impact that it's had on the African-American community?
At the core of everything I do, it's about succession. It's really about raising up the next generation of women, all women, but particularly Black women. I think about being a mentor to 20-somethings, Black women leaders in their 20s here in the United States, and then also those in Africa of the same age, all about the next generation. It's all about, if I die and I haven't passed on what I've learned, then it dies with me. But you share those things so that the next generation is accelerated. I'm always thinking about that next generation of leaders, and particularly about those who have been marginalized. The genius that resides in us that so often the world tries to put under its thumb or minimize. Women leaders are going to be at the forefront of transformation. And so my investment in young Black women as leaders, particularly those who have been marginalized, that's something that I'm very proud of. That these young women that I'm now investing in, someday they'll be sitting in front of somebody else's camera and they'll be saying that as a woman, I have an important place, not just in my family, not just in my community, but in world change. If that happens, then I have done a great job and I've impacted this world beyond the years that I've been here, and I'll be satisfied.
You talked about succession and raising the next generation of leaders. 3 pieces of advice you would give to them.
And they are definitely into self-care. Like, it is a priority for them. So I think that I'm constantly reminding them, I love it. We got to take care of ourselves, because if the leader is not well, then there is no impact. At the same time, we also have to remember that leadership requires selflessness, and they can exist in the same human being. I think the second thing I would say is to exercise self-compassion and compassion for people, right? Again, there's these 2 sides of the coin. There's some lows in life, and you live long enough and you experience those, but the highs and the lows, they're what make you that resilient, tough warrior, but also that compassionate person who can identify humanity when it's hurting. Finally, the power of unity, because society has used against women this stereotype that we have a crab basket mentality, that we're always pulling one another down. It's the power that when we link arms together, we're unstoppable together. So that would be my final thing.
I really want to thank you for taking this time to join us on the PPI Leadership Lounge. It was an honor speaking with you. We know your work, we know the passion, we know the power. And again, I want to say thank you for everything that you do, and we appreciate you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.